Sheldon's insistence on not having a dining table in his and Leonard's apartment in The Big Bang Theory is due to a heartbreaking detail in young Sheldon. By the time Chuck Lorre and Bill Prady's sitcom started in 2007, Jim Parsons and Johnny Galecki were already living with each other. It wasn't until later that it was revealed how they became roommates, although subsequent details about their earlier years are still uncertain. Despite this, considering the pair's shared interests both in terms of science and pop culture, they were able to reach a compromise on how to decorate their space. When The Big Bang Theory ended, Sheldon and Leonard's living arrangements were already different. Leonard and Penny took over the bigger unit, while his best friend moved in with Amy across the hall. While Sheldon no longer lived there, apartment 4A remained the same, as his friends considered his feelings over making changes in his former home. One thing that never changed was the lack of a dining table in the bigger unit, something that was always the case in The Big Bang Theory. The Cooper family's story in young Sheldon, however, reveals why Sheldon didn't want it. The Cooper's family dinners were an important aspect of young Sheldon's storytelling. They were a way to gather the family at the end of the day and ensure that everyone got to interact with each other. Admittedly, the dinners became less frequent as the show neared its end, primarily because the kids started developing their lives separate from the family. Georgie would spend time with Mandy, while Sheldon would stay overnight at school. Still, the Coopers' dinners were a staple of Sheldon's childhood, something that ended with a major tragedy when George unexpectedly died. This is likely the reason why Sheldon was keen on not having a dining table in The Big Bang Theory. The matter was actually discussed in the nerd-centric sitcom when his friends brought up how much easier it would be for all of them to gather and share their weekly meals if they had a proper table. In any case, the unit already had a space for it near the window. Sheldon, however, insisted on not adding the furniture, explaining that he didn't like change, and he wanted to keep their setup on the couch. As it was usually for him, Sheldon did get his way. Everyone gave up trying to convince him. By then, it seemed like it was yet another mindless quirk for the character, something that he was known for. That said, upon seeing young Sheldon, which delved deep into the socially inept genius childhood, there's a good chance that the real reason why Sheldon didn't want a dining table was because he didn't want to remember his dinners at home. While they were a great memory, the devastating loss of his father had made it difficult for him to remember. Despite his genius, Sheldon has always had an issue processing his emotions. This was further proven in the young Sheldon final flash-forward sequence, where he finally admits that George wasn't a bad dad as he previously suggested. Interestingly, however, he arrived at this conclusion even when he continued to believe that his father cheated on his mother, something that young Sheldon season 7 undid. Somehow, Sheldon's reluctance to have a dining table seemingly went away when he started living with Amy. By then, the pair had been already dating for years, and after some ministrations on her part, she was finally able to convince her longtime boyfriend to move in with her in Penny's old apartment. After getting used to the place, Sheldon and Amy regularly ate at the existing dining table in their flat, signaling the change in his outlook about having meals in a proper setting. Similar to the reason why Sheldon stopped knocking 3 times in The Big Bang Theory, his shifting view about dining table was a representation of the character slowly processing his big emotions from his childhood experiences. Towards the end of the nerd-centric sitcom, Sheldon had already mellowed on his stance about his father. He admitted that he missed George during his wedding, and even credited him for figuring out his Nobel-winning paper. It signified that he was gradually accepting what happened in his life in young Sheldon before moving to California.